so much for joining me today. We are going to learn all about Google Docs. Google Docs is an online program used for writing, and I promise you, Google Docs will make your life so much easier. If you're unsure where to start with Google Docs, no worries, you are in the right place. My name is Dr. Casey Hutchinson. I am an instructional technology specialist for Newton County Schools. So today we are going to talk about Google Docs, and here are a few things that we're going to learn. First, what is a Google Doc? We're going to learn how to access Google Docs, how to create a Google Doc. We're going to learn how to use the editing tools, and then we're also going to talk about how to share a Google Doc. Now, like I said before, Google Docs is an online program used for writing, but the great thing with Google Docs is you have lots of options. You can change the font, the text, the size, the color, move around text. You can upload a computer picture, or you can upload one directly from the internet. But here's the great thing. Google Docs lives online, so you can at any time access your Google Doc from any computer with internet access. The last thing with Google Docs is that you have the option to make a Google Doc a collaborative document. So that basically means that you can create a document and share it with someone else to work on that document at the same time, or you can share it with someone else to make edits for you, or even just to proofread for you. So it's super easy to find, to use, to access, and then to share. So let's go ahead now and talk about how do we access Google Docs. There are two basic ways to get started. Number one, if you have a Google account, then first off, sign into your Google account and then click on the app switcher, which I'll show you in a minute where that is located. Or number two, you can go directly to docs.google.com. Now, I'm going to use the app switcher, but I want you to see a picture first. Once you sign in with a Google account and you click on the app switcher, which is the waffle, you can see all of the Google apps right there in one location. And as you can see in this slide, you're going to look for the blue Google Doc icon. I'm going to give you a little better picture of that right here. So it looks just like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and head over to Google Docs. Like I said earlier, I'm going to access Google Docs through the app switcher. So that means that, as you can see, I've already logged into my Google account, and now I see the Google app switcher icon. When I click on this, I can see, just like I showed you earlier, all of the options that Google has, all those online apps. Now, I'm just going to simply click on the blue Docs icon. And at the top of this screen, you can see options for starting a new document. You can start from a blank, like a blank sheet of paper, or you can peruse through lots of different templates to get started. I'm going to start from a blank document. So to do that, I just simply click on the plus sign. Now, as you can see, our blank document takes up most of the page, but notice this blinking vertical line, that's your cursor. So this is where you will begin to see text as you type on this page. The characters will begin right where that cursor is blinking. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about the editing tools and the menu bar. We need to get ourselves familiar with all of the tools that are available in this Google Doc. First, at the very top, you can see that every brand new document is going to start off with the title Untitled Document. Now, just because the document is untitled does not mean that it's not going to save. So we're going to leave this untitled for just a minute, but we'll come back in just a second and give it a name. The first option here is you can see your editing tools and formatting options. If I click on the word file, I can see lots of features here, from simply downloading, renaming, or even to print. So if I created a Google Doc that I needed to print, I could find that print feature right here in File. Edit gives me lots of other features as far as undoing and redoing some of my current edits. I could copy and paste, and all of that is found right here in Edit. View, I can see different views from a print layout, from landscape to portrait, any of those options. Insert, this is another great feature which we'll talk about, how to insert images, how to draw anything from charts, and lots of other things right here. Format, this is how I can create some changes to my document as far as text and paragraph as well. Tools, this allows me to do some word count, spell checks. We're going to skip add-ons, but you do have the option to add on different features inside this Google Doc. And then there's also help. But here's the great thing that I love with Google Docs is most of those features that I just discussed to you live right here under your toolbar. So we looked at format, and this allowed us to see how to change our text, how to do lots of features. But notice, I can also do that right here. Here is my font. Here's my font size. Here is my bold, italicized, underlined, text color, highlight. All of those features live right here up underneath your editing tool description. Now let's do some writing. I'm going to show you a document with a little information about sunflowers. That way that you can get a better idea of exactly how we can use the editing tools on this document. So this is just some basic information about sunflowers that I have right here, and we're going to make some changes. Okay, the first thing, I am going to add the title of this document. And as you see, my cursor is down here in the facing the sun header. So that would mean that my characters would appear where my cursor is blinking. So I need to first click in front of the word origin so that now my cursor is up at the very top. As you can see, my cursor is there, and I'm just going to simply press enter. This allows me a little space at the top to create the title, and I'm going to title this Sunflowers. So as you can see, we're going to go back up to our editing tools right here, and I am going to click on this option right here that says Center Align. One of the great things with Google Docs is that it's all of their icons are very visually driven, but if you need more information, all you have to do is hover over the option and it basically tells you what it is. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to center this option. And I'm going to call this Sunflowers. Now, if I want to make any changes to this text, I need to, first of all, click at the very beginning so that I can start and highlight this whole text and make some changes. So I'm going to change the font size and the type. So I need to highlight the word sunflowers. To do that, I'm going to simply just hold my mouse, hover over, and highlight the entire word. Now here's the great thing. As long as the word is highlighted, I can make as many changes to the word sunflowers as I want. When it is no longer highlighted, then I can no longer make changes. So let me show you again. I'm going to bring my cursor to the very beginning of the word sunflowers. I'm going to hold my mouse, drag my mouse over the word sunflowers, and you can see that it's highlighted. First off, I'm going to change the text from Arial to, let's go, Times New Roman. Okay. Now I can type in the size, or I could just simply add by the plus or make it smaller by the minus. So I am going to take it up to about 18.5. I'm going to make it bold, and then I'm going to click off of the word sunflowers so that I can see what it looks like. Okay, that looks pretty nice, and I'm going to leave that there. Now, as you can see, I have 3 subheadings: origin, history, and facing the sun. So I'm going to start here, and I want to make some changes to the word origin. Remember, my mouse has to be at the beginning of the word so that I can hold it over and highlight the entire word. I'm going to do the very same thing. I'm going to change my font type to Times New Roman. But I'm going to leave it at 15.5 because I want it a little smaller than the title. I'm going to make that bold as well, just so that it looks a little nicer. So I'm going to do the very same thing for history and facing the sun. Hold my mouse over the word history, come up to my font type, and bold. Now remember, as I showed you earlier, you could make these changes by simply clicking on Format and coming into text. But Google Docs makes it so easy for you. You don't have to go into those options. You can just look at some of those basic features right here under the toolbar. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing for facing the sun. I'm going to highlight those words. I'm going to change it to Times New Roman, leave it at 15.5, and just make that bold. Now, I'm going to change this S in sun and make that a capital S. So I can simply just hover over that S, highlight it, and click Shift S for a capital S if I like. Or I could just simply click my Backspace button on the top right of my keyboard, hold my Shift, and then click the S as well. Now, that looks pretty good. One thing before we go any further into formatting this document is this is going to be a document called Sunflowers. So remember earlier how I told you that it says untitled document? I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to click on that, and look what happened. Google Docs is so smart. So if you want the first word of your document to be the title of the document, you can simply just press enter and it will autofill. Now, if that is not what I wanted my document to be titled, no worries. I can just come in here and I can backspace out, and you can see how it's small again. And then I can say all about sunflowers. And I can type it in as well. Okay? No worries on that. So remember, even if you don't give it a title, it's going to save because it's going to, by default, give your document the title of the first word. Now let's do something with a little bit of this text, and then let's add a picture in. So I am going to make some changes to this text right here under this paragraph under the word origin, but I want to make my changes to all of that text. So remember, the first thing that I need to do is to have my cursor at the first word of the text that I want to format. Otherwise, if my cursor is still up here on sunflowers, then that's where I'm going to see my changes. So I am going to hover over the word, drag my mouse, and I'm going to select this entire piece of information. Because the first thing that I want to do is I want to change my font to Times New Roman so that I'm consistent throughout my entire document. Now, remember, as long as the text is highlighted, I can make as many changes as I want. Now, I'm going to come in here and notice I don't have a size automatically defaulted in that rectangle here, and that is perfectly fine. I could come in and just simply type the size that I want it to be. But if I just click on the open space, it drops down the options for me to make that choice. So I'm going to select 14. And then if I don't like that, no worries. I can come right back here and click on the 14 and then drop that down to 12. Okay, so I'm going to do that again for the text under history and then under facing the sun. I simply drug my mouse over all the text I wanted to format. I came up and changed the font to Times New Roman, and then I clicked on the plus sign, but it only gave me 11.5. So I'm going to click on the 11.5 so that now I can change that to 12. I'm going to do the same thing here to the facing the sun. First, take my mouse so that it is right at the beginning of the text I want to format. Hover over all of that, change my font to Times New Roman. I'm just going to go directly in and click on this open space and then drop down to 12. Okay, so now all of my text looks uniformed for the most part. Now, if I want to change, it looks like this might have a little different spacing than these two. So that's going to be the last formatting piece that I'm going to show you. I'm going to highlight the text that I want to adjust the spacing. Now remember, my spacing can be found in formatting, but I could also look at some of these features and just see if I can find it down here as well. And there it is, line and paragraph spacing. So if I click on that option, I get an additional layer of features. And this says 1.15. So I'm going to change it to 1.5. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to bring my cursor down. I'm going to highlight the text that I want to make a change to. I'm going to come right back here to this line and spaces. I'm going to go to 1.5, and then I'm going to drop down to this very last bit of information, highlight this as well, check my line and paragraph spacing, and go to 1.5. Okay, so now my entire document is pretty uniformed. Okay, so now let's go back and review before we add one more piece to our document. We have talked about what a Google Doc is. We have accessed Google Docs through the app switcher. We began a brand new document by clicking on the plus sign at the top of the Google Docs screen. And then I brought in some text and made some formatting changes for you. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is how to insert an image right here in this document. Okay, so I'm going to click on the insert option in my toolbar. And when I do, I get an additional layer of features. I'm going to click on image, and guess what? I get another layer of features. Now I am going to search the internet for a picture of a sunflower. When I click on search the web, that is just short for the World Wide Web, the internet. On the right-hand side, I can see right inside of my Google Docs screen, I now have an image search. And you see, it's pretty smart. It sees where I'm going without me even finishing the word. So I'm going to click on the word sunflower as it has appeared. And I get so many different options for sunflowers that are so beautiful. Okay, so as soon as I find one that I like, then I'm going to insert that image into my document. Now you see this right here. This is just a scroll bar. This allows me, if I hold my mouse and scroll down, this allows me to see all of the photos that Google is going to bring up for sunflowers. Okay, now this could be the hard part, because if you're like me, this might be where making the decision is sometimes tough. But I'm just going to go with this option right here. And when I hover my mouse over it, you can see that it's trying to select this option. And when I do, down at the very bottom, you can see where it says one is selected and do I want to insert. And I'm just going to click yes, insert. Okay. Now, notice what has happened to my text. It dropped the image exactly where my cursor was. Remember, your cursor is where any characters begin, and it's also where any picture is uploaded or inserted. Okay, so this might make you a little nervous. Oh my, I've messed up everything that I did. And no, you really haven't. What we need to do now is resize that image. So this is now on 2 pages, and it's really not enough information for 2 pages. So I'm going to come to this image, and I'm just going to right click on this image. As you see, when I right click on that image, now I have my parameters, my borders are highlighted with the blue squared boxes. This allows me to change the size of the image. So how I'm going to do that is very simple. I'm going to bring my mouse over to one of the corner points, and I'm going to drag that corner boundary down. And oh, it's not on the second page anymore. Now it looks like it is here on the first page. Okay, that looks nice, but I still want to drag that down just a little bit more. So I can do this on any corner or any of those side options. I'm just going to come to any of these corners. I tend to come to the right bottom corner. I'm going to hold my mouse and drag that down to the size that I like. Now notice these options at the very bottom. So now I can choose how my image is inserted into my text. So this one's inline, which basically means it's going to stand alone in line with the text. The next one is basically saying that it's going to wrap the text around it, break the text, or it can go behind the text, kind of like a watermark, or in front of the text. Okay, so I am going to, first off, I'm going to move this picture to the right side of my document, and then I'm going to change some of these features. So remember, up under this toolbar are these tool functions, and you can see right here that it is left aligned. I'm going to, instead of center, I'm going to make it right aligned. And look, as soon as I click that option, it took my picture right here on the right-hand side. Now, I'm going to try a couple of things because I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a change. I'm going to just click on wrap text. And look what it did when I did the wrapped text. It wrapped the text around it. So I didn't necessarily lose my heading facing the sun. It just wrapped those words and shortened the length of those lines on this page. Okay? If I don't like that, let me show you how easy it is to make a change. Remember earlier how I told you you could undo or redo anything that you did in a Google Doc? Well, here you go. If I click on undo, it takes it right back to aligned on the right-hand side and just in line with the text. Okay, so we looked at it as a wrapped text. Now let's look at it as a break text, and I can have some margins and some options. I automatically know that I don't want that. I know that I really want it to be in the wrapped text format, but I don't have to make any changes except go to undo, and that takes it back where it was. And I can simply click on wrap text again, and that looks really nice. Okay. If I feel like there's a little bit more space here, then here I can take my cursor and come to the front of facing the sun, and then I simply just click Backspace, and that takes it up one whole line. But if not, I can leave it just like it is. Okay, so I'm going to leave that here. One other piece to formatting the picture is if I click on the picture again, let me talk to you a little bit about this dot at the very top. The dot allows me to change the rotation of this picture. So let's just say I want to offset to the right just a little bit. Right now it's just straight up and down. So if I put my mouse cursor right there on top of that dot, and then drag the picture over, you can kind of see how it did a tilt on the picture. It just changes the direction. Now, for this document, I don't think I like that. But there are times that I do like to make that change. Now, I don't have to come back and reposition the sunflower. I can simply come right up here and yes, you got it. Click undo, and it took it right back to wrapped text on the right-hand side. Okay, so super easy to make some edits. Super easy to upload a picture directly from the internet, from Google. It's also easy to resize the picture and to move it onto the document wherever you want to move that picture. One of the cautions that I would always remind you is, remember, when you drop an image, when you insert that image into that document, it's going to be pretty large. So don't forget to, first off, don't stress, but click on the picture and change the size of the image. And it's super easy. Once you get that image to the size that you like, you can move it. You can change the text to wrap around it or to be in line with the text. The last thing here, I'm going to click on Insert again. And remember, if I click on Image, I went to search from the web, but I could also upload one that was saved previously on my computer. So if I click on that, you can see it takes me right here to my computer images. Okay? So again, let's recap. We talked about locating Google Docs. We talked about creating a Google Doc. We talked about formatting. We even inserted an image. The last piece of this puzzle that I want to talk to you about is sharing that document, because this is so important. You can create this document on sunflowers that you never share with anyone, that you just keep for yourself. But you could also create this document that someone else creates another page, and they may want to talk about daisies or geraniums, whatever. You could create a whole document and each individual page be about a different flower. Or you could create this document and send it to someone and say, hey, can you just proofread this for me and see if it reads well, see if there are any errors that I need to address, okay? But to do that, you need to understand how to share this and what the permissions are like, okay? So once my document is finished, I'm going to come up and click on the word share. Did you notice how it said that, I'm going to click off this again because I want you to see this. Do you notice when I hover my mouse over the word share, it says private, only for me? So unless you change the permissions, it's going to stay private. So that's always a good thing to know, because a lot of times we don't do because we don't know. So you can automatically be confident in knowing that anything that you do in Google Docs is going to be saved just for you unless you share it. But now I'm going to click on the word share. And this says I can share with people or groups, because you can see I own this document, but I can now get a link or I could type in their name. So let me talk to you about that. So if I just wanted to share this directly through an email with someone, I could come in here and just begin typing someone's name. So if I wanted to share this with Jennifer Williams, I could come in here and click her name, okay? And notice, once I clicked her name, I come to the right-hand side of her name and I can change her permission. So if I want her to edit or just be a commenter or just view it, I can change that. Now remember, an editor has all the power. So I could share my wonderful document about sunflowers with Jennifer Williams, and she could be mad at me and she could completely ruin this document for me. She wouldn't, but she could. If I changed it to commenting, a commenter's link, then or a commenter's download, that would mean that she's just trying to look for edits. She's trying to edit it for me. She's making some corrections or she's making some notations on things I need to correct. If I change it to viewer, that just means that she can only read it. She can't make any changes to this document. Now, I want her to edit this because I want to hypothetically have Jennifer make another page about daisies, okay? Once I do that, And when I click send, she is going to automatically get an email that says I have given her a link. Now, if I don't have a previous conversation with her about it and I just want to add a note, hi, Dr. Williams, I have started a Google Docs on sunflowers. Can you add a page about daisies? I could type that right here. Can you add a can you add a page about roses? Okay. And so now she can see that she can add another page about roses. And if I click send, she would get this information. Okay. So that is my first option. I'm going to click back because I don't want to send that. So your first option to share is to send it directly to someone that you already have their email, or maybe it's just somebody quick like it was with Jennifer. It just showed up very quickly. The other option is to get a link. So I can get a link and send this as well through an email with a little bit more directives or a little bit clearer directions. Either way, I do both. I'm just going to be honest. But most of the time, I do a link. So the first thing that I'm going to do is you can see that it says for us, because we're in Newton County Network, it's going to default to Newton County Schools. But if I click here, if you are a parent, you obviously would not see Newton County Schools. But if I click here, it's either going to say anyone with this link. Like I say, it won't have that one. So I'm going to change it to anyone with this link. And look, there is my option again. Anybody with this link can view, be a commenter, or be an editor. Okay, so I am going to make this an editor link. Remember, editors have all the power. So if you give someone an editor link, that basically means that they can change anything in this document that you want. So be very clear about that. Once I have changed who and what they can do, then I just simply copy this link, and you can see the link has been copied, and now I can drop that directly into an email. Okay, so that is super important to recognize that your permissions live in your shared option here. Once you have done this, then you need to decide if you want to send it directly to someone through their email or if you want to get a link. A lot of times I send a link if I want to send a document to multiple people and I want to be a little bit more specific in my directions. Okay, and then you can drop that link anywhere that you so choose. So before we go, let's review. We talked about a Google Doc is an online program used for writing. And you access Google Docs by signing into Google or by visiting docs.google.com. And if you sign into your Google account, then you would want to access through the app switcher. Signing up for Google is free, you guys, so it's super easy to do. We talked about creating a Google Doc from scratch, and then we also looked at a couple of the templates at the top of that Google Doc screen. We went through the editing tools, and we also inserted an image. But the biggest piece to this puzzle, you guys, I want to be sure that you remember how to share a Google Doc. Share it through a link or directly as an email, but you want to be sure that you set the permissions for that document before you send it out, because that could be really good or it could be not so good. I hope that this session has been helpful. I hope that you are ready to get started with Google Docs. I am quite sure you will love it.